Yo, what's up, kinfolk? Welcome into another movie review by yours truly. Today, of course, we are going to feature the Merc with a mouth himself, Deadpool, in his sophomore outing, Deadpool 2. Isn't this technically his junior outing? Okay, if you're talking about X-Men Origins Wolverine, we don't talk about X-Men Origins Wolverine. Well, Deadpool once said it best. These timelines are rather confusing. And right, you are. So, if any of you guys are new to the channel, I'm going to give you the usual structure of the review. Of course, I'm going to give you your good, your bad, your spoiler talk, and overall thoughts and score. And so you don't have to worry, I will timestamp it somewhere in this video when the spoilers begin, so you don't be trying to bite off my head about spoilers. And with all that being said, without further delay, let's review Deadpool 2. So, of course, first things first, if we're going to talk about anything good involving Deadpool, what better way to start off talking about the comedy? As to be expected, this movie has an abundance of humor, and I have to give it props on timing on certain jokes in the movie. Now, all of them don't exactly catch, but for the most part, when the funny happens, it hits. So it's not really too much to have an issue with, but like I said, if you're there to laugh and you're not particularly sensitive about certain brands of comedy, hey, you should be fine. FM, the movie has sex jokes and toilet humor. People are gonna be offended. Well, it's not like they don't give you fair warning beforehand. It's not a family-oriented movie. Ryan Reynolds, of course, brings it again as Deadpool. And just after seeing this film, there's no doubt in my mind that obviously this man was born to play Deadpool. If you didn't get it the first time, you definitely get it now. Way to be informative, Captain Obvious. Marv, this might come as a surprise to you, but not everyone is familiar with Deadpool like you and I, alright? So, could you please turn down the jerk volume a little bit? Right, FM, and people don't know Val Kilmer played Batman once. This guy. Yeah, alright, Marv. In addition to that, we got Josh Brolin as Cable, and also Zazie Beetz as Domino. And the three characters, Deadpool, Cable, and Domino, they're essentially the trifecta in this film, and it's great. As usual, Josh Brolin has a great performance as Cable. He's a man on a mission. He is dead set on carrying out said mission, and you're on the ride with him. It's times where he essentially is doing, his character is set out to do something somewhat questionable, but with justified reasoning. But at the same time, you can't fault the man for the reasoning, and that's what makes Cable overall a compelling character, and they really captured that in this film. Zazie Beetz' Domino was a really great addition because she was someone who, again, luck is on her side, and she kind of has a persona that essentially she relies on Lady Luck a lot, so she's a little bit more laid back. She doesn't have much worried about anything. She's kick-ass, and she's somebody that I would definitely have on the squad. FM, weren't there other people in this movie besides those three? Yeah, there were, but we're gonna save that tidbit for a little later. It is also worth mentioning that the action in this movie was definitely a step up from the first film. The action scenes had really good pacing. You can follow everything that was going on. It didn't really have too many fast cuts like the first one did. So it was easy to follow along with the movements and all the other stuff that was going on, and they had a lot to work with, and I feel they had more to work with in this movie, obviously with the budget being bigger. Oh, so it seems Fox had a little bit more faith in this movie then. Well, they'd be stupid not to, with the first one being a runaway success. Lastly, and kind of ironically, one of the other good things about this film was the ending. I would go into detail, but that would require me spoiling it, which we'll get to in a bit. So with all that being said, that concludes the good section. So let's go ahead and transition over to what I didn't like. Now, one of the highlights of this movie is the fact that it does parody certain cinema tropes, not just in comic book cinema, but just in cinema in general. But I think what kind of counts against it when it does that is sometimes the tones don't mesh as well. This is what I think the first movie excels over the second, because when it had those moments where it was essentially going to get serious, the thing is, it didn't go too far into the seriousness to take away the overall theme of the film, which is usually a very, very self-aware comic book film with, because of Deadpool and his character always breaking the fourth wall. And they kind of they were really going for some things in Deadpool 2. And I can't knock them too much for it, but at the same time, it sort of feels like they kind of went out a little too far, and like sometimes it was a little hard to rein it back in. I mean, it's still an action movie at the end of the day. I mean, what's a little action without a little drama? It's not that I have a problem with the drama, it's just because since this is a Deadpool movie, it's just one of those things that seem to clash. The best way I can explain it is to use a fishing analogy. It's basically like leaving your bait on the hook for too long and it's basically dead, and at that point it's hard to reel in the fish. So that's why I just feel that when the drama starts in an otherwise self-aware comic book movie, I think it kind of pulls you out of it a little bit. Other than that, there were just a couple of jokes here and there that didn't land for me. They also had a returning character from the first film, if you've seen the trailers. Honestly, I really don't think he was needed in this film, but I guess it's just one of those things where they have a returning character come back in the sequel. It's kind of hit and miss. For me, it's a miss, and I'll just leave it at that. Not everybody can be Leo Getz from the Lethal Weapon series. No one can be Chris O'Donnell as Robin either. Marv, did you really just compare Chris O'Donnell as Dick Grayson? What? Sounds like a fair comparison to me? Marv, once again, you failed me. So I guess I'm done talking about the bad stuff now, so we're gonna go ahead and get into some spoiler territory. And like I said at the beginning of the video, you will receive a timestamp which should appear about here. And you can go ahead and skip to that time if you haven't seen the movie yet. You ain't gotta come on my video and post the comments about you getting the spoilers when you were thoroughly warned. So, okay, let's talk spoilers. So the movie starts off with Deadpool going after several people. Doesn't really give a real reason why. Maybe they did and I may have missed it. I'm not sure. But just a lot of hilarious hijinks and stab and murder and all that good stuff. And all this kind of culminates into a very shocking event, to say the least. Basically, it leads to his girlfriend, Vanessa, getting murdered. And it was a very dramatic turn of events after that, because it's like part of me oh, is she really gonna get killed? Whatever. So I mean, one of the highlights of this movie, I will say, is that there was some things you really didn't see coming. But it's an action movie, though. Everyone knows in action movies the love interest gets killed. Well, I suppose you have a point. I just think the way it was done, it was kind of done in a way that you were least expecting. But on the same token, it sort of kind of goes back to the Deadpool that we kind of already know, and it kind of has like this whole opening montage like a Bond film, which was hilarious. Like that should have been one of the things I talked about in the good section, but at the same time, I'm like I didn't know whether that would be considered a spoiler or not, but it basically opened like a Bond film, and I thought that was hilarious. Now, prior to all of this stuff happening, the movie actually opens up with Deadpool blowing himself up without giving a real reason other than to kind of copycat what Logan did with him dying at the end and him making it a point to say, like, I'm going to die in this movie too. But again, then it plays out as like, oh, that's why he feels that way. So This is like I said, the movie kind of takes an interesting turn. Now, as the movie progresses, there are a few scenes where Deadpool essentially has a close encounter with death and is close to being with Vanessa again, but he can't yet because he essentially can't die, but not before coming to the conclusion with some words of wisdom from Vanessa herself that he has to open his heart again. So he goes through a lot of different transitions to figure out how to do this. He tries that by joining the X-Men, which doesn't work out because he fumbled his first mission by trying to help this mutant kid that went out of control. He gets arrested, thrown into a mutant concentration prison along with the kid. And that's when Cable comes in, and that's when the whole story starts going. See, Cable comes back from the future because said kid grows up to be a homicidal maniac, which murders his wife and daughter. And he comes back from the future to kill the kid to prevent all that from happening. And that's why him and Deadpool basically go into blows throughout most of the movie. And again, it makes for some pretty good action sequences. And yeah, that's when things start getting rolling. Ironically, this has nothing to do with saving mutant kind, but at the same time, they had to take some liberty, so what you gonna do? Yeah, it seems like they didn't have no problem borrowing from the Terminator franchise neither. Yeah, well, like I said, this movie kind of parodies certain movie tropes. Now, with all this craziness going on, of course, Deadpool decides that he was going to have to form a team. Marv did mention some other people that were supposed to be in the film, according to the trailers. And this is when things kind of turn, it kind of veers left when it was supposed to go right. Now, if you've seen the trailers, the people that Deadpool recruits is, of course, Domino, but you also had Bedlam, played by Terry Crews, Zeitgeist, played by Bill Skarsgård. They also had Shatterstar, the Vanisher, and another dude named Peter. He's just some random dude that show up. And they all gruesomely die. They killed him. Yeah, those trailers pulled the wool over everyone's eyes. So as they are diving in to save the kid from Cable, of course, there was a wind advisory joke that they threw in there, and that ultimately caused everybody to veer off course and just die horribly. And I think the biggest surprise out of them all, that Vanisher, since we didn't really see him until he got electrocuted in some wires, turns out to be played by Brad Pitt. Well, if some people were wanting Brad Pitt to be in a comic book movie, now he has. That's probably one of the funniest, if not the funniest moment in the movie, aside from what happens at the ending. The only other one I could think of was when Deadpool joins the X-Men, and they kind of revisit that whole joke from the first one about the studio not having enough money to put another X-Men in the film. And it was a moment when he was talking, and it was like one room where all the other cast members and the X-Men were in there, and they just closed the door so they wouldn't see it. I laughed really hard in the theater on that. Now, leading up to all this is when some of the story gets really, really heavy, when they start exploring the backstory of the kid. And they go through this whole thing where it's like this house for mutants, that they get abused by these, religious zealots. And it's kind of like, okay, you're abusing this kid because of who he was born as and all of that. And again, it's just kind of some real stuff going on in this movie. And again, it's not that I have a problem with it. It's just because this is being a Deadpool movie. Sometimes it's a little too heavy for this kind of movie, but doesn't make it bad. I'm just saying, just maybe it was a little too deep for this movie. Some of the other cool things that happen is Juggernaut gets involved, because some point the kid basically makes friends with the Juggernaut, and they start wreaking havoc, and he's on his way to having a thirst for killing. And then of course Deadpool and Cable wind up teaming up, because like at this point it's like, hey, this is gonna have to be the last time, we're gonna have to fix this. And you want to save the kid, I want to kill the kid, I'm gonna give you some time to try to fix this before I fix it. The old drastic action movie ultimatum. Yep, check that off the list. So of course, after some gritty action scenes, they do wind up saving the kid, and Deadpool successfully dies, but he comes back to life because at the end, Cable decide to do a switcheroo really quick for Wade to where he still saves the kid and doesn't die. And just, it kind of gets a little convoluted after the fact, but it's just, again, like, it's a Deadpool movie, that's what you would expect. And there you go. Now for the ending. Okay. Apparently, when Cable used his time device again, that was the last of the energy of it. So he supposedly couldn't go back to his own time when that happened. So Deadpool apparently gets said device, takes it to the X-Mansion, has it get fixed, and he basically makes some corrections with the time device of his own. Number one, he stops Vanessa from getting killed. Number two, he goes to the other timeline with X-Men Origins Wolverine and murders the other Deadpool. And the third, I guess it's supposed to be our timeline, he kills Ryan Reynolds from doing Green Lantern. It's like right as he's reading the script, it's like Deadpool puts a bullet through his head. I was like, that was funny. That was really funny. Yeah, I would definitely say that as far as comic book movies go, that was probably like one of the funniest ever made, if not the funniest. So guys, yeah, that's Deadpool 2. I guess the Spider-Man Homecoming ending when Captain America trolls everyone is no longer your favorite. Oh, that ending is still one of my favorites because I just, again, I had to say well played to Marvel on that one. But I think as far as just overall comedy, it's just, I want to say Deadpool 2 takes it. So as far as my final thoughts, I think the movie itself was solid. It had really good humor, had some good characters that were very likable. For me, I just think there was some tonal issues. Honestly, I really think they could have left a cab driver guy, I forget his name. Honestly, I really felt like they could have left him out, but they kept him in, and I didn't really like it that much, but hey, it just is what it is. But overall, I think it's a solid movie, and if you haven't seen it yet, go see it. So with all that being said, Deadpool 2 gets my marvelous score of 8 out of 10. The movie is still a very fun ride. I still recommend going seeing it. Still think the original was just this much better than this one, just a hair. So if they release an unrated version of this movie, then that means it'd be better than the first one, right? Possibly, yeah. So guys, that does it for my Deadpool 2 review. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you've seen the movie, go ahead and post your comments down below. Let me know what you thought about it. We can exchange knowledge about it and all that, and how we felt, and all those typical YouTube social media type stuff. So of course, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, all those wonderful things. I will check with y'all in the next one. Till then, keep following my advice to go nerd, but nerd responsibly. This your boy, Fallen Marvel, and I am Marv, the inner voice with a mouth. Wait, does that make sense? And family, I'm out. Later.